Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you
how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of, and what is the plan to overcome that fear, and what is the plan to enact that passion.
Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. I'm your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33, or you can go to my website, AaronJArmstrong.com. A little bit about me. I was kind of in that position a few years ago when I was trying to get out of the military of what I wanted to do with my life. So took a job in corporate America and decided to start building a side hustle in real estate. Started to have a lot of success with real estate and other investments. And then I jumped into the world of podcasting, personal growth and development, and shared my journey with you all. And that's where I am today. So without further ado, guys, how are you going to have your best year ever? So I'm recording this a couple days after New Year's because most people are already giving up on their New Year's goals. It's not even been a week. It's January 5th right now. And the fact of the matter is most people can't stick with a New Year's resolution for 1 month. And there's, I think, a lot of different reasons why. So I've gone down the route of having like 25 different things I'm going to do this year. And then I had last year where I did one thing that I was going to do. So last year, my New Year's resolution was I had one target. I just wanted to focus on a virtue, and that was the virtue of discipline. And I started the year with a cleanse. There was a liver cleanse where I went on a raw vegan, low-fat diet, which doesn't sound as hard when you say it like that. But okay, so vegan is all plants, right? No animal products at all. Raw indicates absolutely nothing can be cooked. And then there's low fat, which means you can't have like nuts or almonds, or you have to limit avocados even. That was really freaking hard. So anyway, we start off the year with that. And I wanted to make sure that I was starting to rid myself of these different things I saw pushing the different vices, if you will, the vices of money, the vices, these things that were pulling me in directions I didn't want to go. And I saw myself getting into a position where I was kind of worshiping money and worshiping status and worshiping fame. And that's where I said, we got to draw this back. So 2019 was a year of discipline for me. I focused on one thing. That did come with a cost. You focus on one thing. I think there's other aspects of your life that you're going to see kind of suffer a bit. So I didn't drink the whole year. We downsized our house. For those of you guys that have followed me for a long time, that we had a really big, beautiful home on one of the most scenic lakes in the state of Wisconsin, and it was just awesome lakefront ranch, all windows, really modern. It looked just so cool, and we got rid of it. And we got rid of it for a bunch of different reasons. One of them was we started to see ourselves fall into that trap of what are we going to do to one up the people around us, the people on Instagram, the other influencers out there, the other neighbors I compare myself to. The other reason was, it was a good financial move. And then we just wanted to make sure that mostly that I wasn't going to start to just fall into this trap of how much money am I going to worship? When is that going to stop? So that was the year of discipline, was 2019. And with all of the good that came out of that, which there was a ton of good that came out of that, was we went to this minimalistic thing. We bought the van, traveled around the entire country, started to get paid speaking gigs, speaking events. And for those of you that want to become public speakers or motivational speakers, you know that this business is just like any other kind of, it's really very relatable to show business. I don't know how many of you guys follow the show The Marvelous Miss Maisel on Amazon Prime, but I do recommend it. It's pretty funny, and it's about this, really charismatic, likable main character, Miss Maisel, who's going through some personal problems, and she kind of falls ass backwards into this comedy career and all the things that come along with trying to start yourself as a stand-up comic. And it's just very relatable to where I think I've been on this last journey of trying to become a speaker, an author, a thought leader in this world. And it's just funny. And I think that that's really where this 2019 year really was for me, was starting this journey into the world of speaking. And with speaking, you got to understand that you've got, and as this podcast has really taken off and my socials have kind of taken off, I started to look back and be like, well, what am I actually talking about? And really get deep into the philosophy of what I think I believe. And that's where I think 2019 transformed my thinking to make sure I was going deep into the roots of my philosophy and finding out where these values really come from and making sure that we can keep communicating those. So if you hear me contradict myself on these further messages as I did when I was earlier, 3 years ago, 2 years ago when we started this podcast, that's because I'm growing too, and I'm trying to learn the best way to do things. And I think it's exciting for you guys to maybe watch that journey and try these different things out just as I have. But so my advice may change, and I think that that's okay. And if you have, I'm not like a politician where I got to make some freaking stance on something and keep it forever. But I think that going forward, I've done a lot of thought into my belief system and my values, and those aren't going to be changing really a lot for the most part in the long run. So that's kind of 2019 in review. And as I focused in on that discipline piece, I started to realize that, you focus on one thing, you're going to neglect others. So I started to lose a lot of good old friendships I think I had. When you give up drinking, you don't, especially if you guys know anything about the state of Wisconsin, that that's probably all they're known for. It's their ability to watch Packer games and, the Wisconsin Badgers and the sports town. It's just big sports culture with eating and drinking, and that's the culture. And it's very difficult to commune with people over something other than drinking beer or drinking wine or smashing your face with shots. So I found that hard, and I lost some friendships along the way. So this year, I'm rolling out a new strategy and on how we can have the best 2020 of your life, and I will share with you my approach for doing this, and I think you guys are going to really benefit from this too. So the self-help guru that really started to kick this thing off was a man by the name of Zig Ziglar. A lot of you probably have heard of him. And he was just an awesome sales trainer, really influential guy, motivational person who had just good values deep at his core. And one of the pieces of advice he gave was he called this the wheel of life. And when you're starting to set up your goals, you want to have the wheel of life, and you want to treat each one of these different tenets, if you will, as spokes. And there's about 7 of them, I think. And 7 of these spokes are just like a spoke on a bicycle or any other wheel. And if one of them fails, or you are short on one of them, the wheel won't be round and it won't roll as efficiently and effectively, just as your life won't roll as efficiently and effectively. So the 7 aspects of the wheel of life, and these are how I've approached my goal setting this year, is you want to have career goals, you want to have financial goals, you want to have spiritual goals, you want to have physical goals, intellectual goals, family, and social. So if I'm looking at my last year, I think that my spiritual went way up through the roof. I think I found a really deep connection with, Jesus, because that's my belief. I'm a Christian, and that's where I think I'm going to be a little bit less apologetic about that going forward. So, for my secular listeners, I apologize, but this is just my beliefs and where I draw my values. That went way through the roof, I think, this last year. Financial was pretty consistent. Career was pretty consistent, if maybe not a bit of a dip. Physical, I thought, was pretty consistent. And the one that really took a dip for me, I thought, was social. And I think that's where, looking at this wheel, you'll make sure that you at least have goals to align with that. So what does that mean? Okay, so you have a career goal. What are you looking for in your career? And if you guys are entrepreneurs or, thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, what are you looking for in your next year? And I think what we do is we overdo it every time. We overestimate what we think we can accomplish. We're going to be like, I'm going to read 20 freaking books. I'm going to lose 25 pounds. I'm going to do all this and that. And I think what we forget is, you guys know, I preach this to all my clients. I preach this to you guys. It's the habits. It is the habits that make the goal. So the goal is good because that's your target. That's what you're trying to hit. But the habits are what's going to get you there. So if you're looking at, I think a great analogy is back in the military when we would do land navigation, call it land nav, you would set your azimuth. That's your route. Basically, you'd shoot an azimuth, which is your direction, at some kind of distant point in whatever direction you're trying to go. And the compass would align. You'd say, okay, whatever, 270 degrees this way. So you'd go that way and you'd start walking. And the steps are kind of the habits. And then what you do every once in a while is something called an azimuth check, is you look up and see if you're close, if you're still going the same direction as what you thought. I think that's very relatable to how you want to set a goal in life. You want to put your goal out there where you can see it. Then your habits are going to be the individual steps every single day that's going to get you closer to that goal. Because if you're not moving forward, you're not going to be doing anything. And your habits are basically the building blocks. You got to think of this as building a wall, right? And the bricks are these different habits that you instill every single day. And the end goal is to have a wall built. So that's kind of the idea here. And as you start to walk, you want to make sure you're not veering away too far from your direction. You want to keep checking back in with your goals. So, I've done things where I put a sticky note on my mirror when I brush my teeth, and every single day I look up and I see that goal. That's my way of doing an azimuth check. It's like, this is my goal this year. I want to make sure I'm hitting it. And you're brushing your teeth, you're just sitting there staring at yourself in the mirror for 5 minutes anyway. You might as well be looking at your goal and thinking about your future. So that's one way you could start to think about how you want to do these azimuth checks, putting on your dashboard in your car. These different thoughts. You want to remind yourself of what your goal is, because that's one of the techniques. Another one I do is I set alarms in my phone. So I find myself most busy at about 10:30 in the morning and about 2:30 in the afternoon. That's usually when I'm just kind of like, I don't have a lot of time to sit and think. I'm just kind of busy. I'm reacting. So I want to make sure that anything that really does matter and my big goals show up. So I change the name of my alarm to whatever I want to be reminded of, and you just set that throughout the day. So there's different kind of techniques you can do that I call, those different azimuth checks. But the fact of the matter is, you got to start to build habits consistently. If you want to lose 20 pounds, the way you're going to do that is you're going to build a habit of consistently showing up to the gym and consistently eating well. So the way you do this is in, like, Alcoholics Anonymous, is one of the things they talk about is winning the day. And I think we try to set this, we want to win the year so bad when we're setting these New Year's resolutions. We forget about how much easier it is if you can just win the day. So right now, because I did the cleanse last year, of course, Marissa's talked me into doing it again this year. And I like eating food, if you can't tell by my body, right? It's like, I put on some mass here, right? So it's like, I love food. We love traveling, eating all sorts of different kind of stuff. So when you're doing a raw, vegan, low-fat cleanse, detox, winning the day is essential. And if you could do this all the time with whatever that goal is, just make sure today I'm sticking with it. Today I've got this goal put in place. If you got some kind of career goal that you want to get maybe promoted by the end of the year or something like that, think about the goal that's going to change you to be a person that's worth promoting instead of just getting promoted. What's going to make you a person worth promoting? So, my line of work, I've found that the more optimistic I can be, and when I say optimistic, the more optimistic I am and eager to recognize a problem and be willing to solve it, the more valuable I'm perceived by my peers. Therefore, I'm more likely to improve my career because of that. So, for example, my career goal this year isn't to get promoted. My career goal isn't to make X amount of money. My career isn't to get X amount of sales or whatever. My career goal is to be to be an optimistic problem solver this year. And I've just noticed this with a lot of successful people is, if you talk to an unsuccessful person, you present a problem, they just go, oh my gosh, and they start doomsday prepping. If you talk to successful people that have a problem, I've noticed they're like, well, maybe we could try this. I mean, it shouldn't be this big of a deal. I think we could simplify this and make it like this. It's just like the tone of the voice is totally different. Unsuccessful person's always like, oh, we have to do what? We just get some bad news. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. Oh, that's going to mean this, and that's going to mean this and this and that. And all of a sudden they start going down this slippery slope. And the successful person is on the other side of this going, okay, let's see. So this is the scenario. Let's just talk about it for a second. We got this. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. I think that they're already just jumping into solutions. And I think that's really, a great goal, is to be an optimistic problem solver. Something like that was much better than how can I be promoted. If your goal is to be promoted or rocket in sales this year, or do the best, do the best in sales this year or something like that, look at yourself and say, what do I need to change about myself to get that kind of success so people want to buy from me? Those are the types of things you want to look at. instead of just setting these arbitrary things out there, because then you're going to be striving at something that doesn't exist. But something that does exist is how you can continuously change yourself. And by winning the day, how optimistic was I today? How can I be optimistic in every conversation I come across? Those are things that can start changing your year. So that's an example of just a career goal. If you're looking at this financial goal, I was really shocked until I started working with a lot of the different people I worked with this year, and then listening to a lot of different podcasts I listened to this year that I wasn't normally used to listening to as far as financial well-being. So I would say I was privileged in the fact that I was pretty wise financially and had a lot of good early mentors, like early mentors, like my teens and then in college, of what financial success looked like. I was quite ignorant to how much financial distress most people are in this country from a personal finance perspective. So I didn't realize, like, for example, with a credit card, we were always just taught you get a credit card, you pay it off right away, and it's just kind of like a debit card. I didn't realize that, like, something ridiculous, like 94% of people actually don't pay or carry a balance on their credit card, right? So there's just a lot of these different things. I started to find out that a lot of people are in financial trouble. So I said, okay, if I want to be able to serve and help this community of individuals, what do we need to teach them? What needs to happen? How do we do this? What do I do different than other people? And so on. So what I think we look at in a financial situation is how eager, like, so in a company, right? A company that lives and dies by profit. They have staffs of people auditing, just getting into the details on numbers, constantly crunching the numbers and the accounting balances and the financials, and just flipping over rocks to find money to do different stuff. And everybody's held under a freaking thumb with the amount of money, everything. There's just so much attention to detail around budgets in a business. And I heard some good advice a while ago, and it said, stop looking at what people are doing and start looking at, like, what businesses are doing if you want to improve yourself or your business, right? Just because it's an idea. I mean, from a financial perspective, I'm talking about personal finance here, but look at how a business handles money. A large company is they've got just staffs of people auditing, like, every dollar is accounted for. In most ethical companies, we'll put that caveat in there. Yeah, most ethical companies, you at least have every dollar is accounted for, and everybody understands the budget. And there's really no way of spending outside of the budget because they don't have the purchasing authority. That's the problem in the household budget, is you have the authority to spend outside of the budget. So you do, and then that's where you get into trouble. But I was surprised at how many people don't even set up a budget. And a great reference on this stuff, some of you might have heard of him, Dave Ramsey, is just a phenomenal guy when it comes to personal finance. And like I've told you before, I think I agree with 80% of what he talks about as far as it comes to, like, budgeting, setting up your life, getting your stuff put together. I think we just don't necessarily see eye to eye when it comes to doing some real estate investing. He believes in just all cash real estate investing, where I think I've found a lot of benefit for myself with being able to leverage loans and debt for, pursuing larger real estate deals. And that's what companies do too, right? Like, look at Amazon. They're leveraging a significant amount of debt. And even, any company you're looking at, one of the things you evaluate when I was investing in stocks a lot of times was your debt to equity ratio in a company. And oftentimes, if they were all debt, or if they were all equity, 100% cash, they didn't owe money to anybody, that would be looked on pretty unfavorably by investors, because you're basically missing a pretty significant amount of capital you can use to leverage your dollar. And it's seen not necessarily very well to investors as a market value. So you're not getting the most value you can out of your company. You're not making as much profit as you possibly could. So anyway, that's my long rant to that aspect of Dave that I don't agree with. But as far as the financial aspects, comprise, it's like, how do you get your budget in order? What's your budget goal this year? What's your financial goal? Marissa and I just went through, and our finances are, they start out pretty good, and they get sloppy here and there when the stuff happens. But, we do a pretty good job, I think, of keeping our thumb on it. But a lot of people, I've noticed, don't have a clue what's going on. And that's something that you should just look at is how serious are you taking your income? Is just like, I talked to a guy a couple of weeks ago and he was like, well, I know that it's getting close to payday when there's not much money in there. Then I know that payday's coming up. And then when there's money in there, I'm like, oh, I got paid. And it's just like, if that's the way you want to look at it, that's not very efficient. You want to be able to have a plan for every single dollar that you put places. And that's, I think, a very important aspect of your New Year's resolution. So career, financial, I think those are two important aspects to look at to have the best year of your life. And I will say that if you want to just keep it simple this year and you don't want to go through the whole wheel of life, then I would encourage you to pick something very favorable about what you think you can just honestly stick with every single day. Because I'm not going to tell you there's one way to do a New Year's resolution versus another. I've tried a lot of different techniques, and I think as I've worked with different clients, they respond much better to different ones. I had one client, we had a technique, it was called One Goal. And it was, I've talked about this on the show, I believe, and it was just you have one goal and that's it, and everything just aligns to that one goal, and it worked very, 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 very well for him. I've had other clients that I'm doing this with another client right now that has a similar technique that I'm doing right now. It's kind of like the Wheel of Life, and we actually rate it every single month when we meet, and we go through it, and we evaluate it, build bar charts. It's like, okay, your spiritual is low this month. What's going on? Just actually saw him today, and he was. I invited him to our church, and so I meet with him actually in person. A lot of my clients are online, but I meet in person, and I see him at church, and I'm like, he's getting involved with our church now. So it's just, he's excited that he can improve that spiritual aspect too, and he can rank that higher now, so you can start to see the actual wheel come alive. Because for whatever reason, people want to see the results. If you can't see a tangible result, it doesn't feel real. And for whatever reason, that's how we think. So if you're looking at, what your life is going to be, if you're going to try to come up with one goal this year, do something that you can stick with. Like, what is it going to be? Discipline. Just keep it a theme. Or I'm going to serve someone new every single day. What is that goal going to be this year, and how are you going to totally rock it? So if you go to career, you got financial. Let's talk about spiritual goals here. And I think that this is something that I've thought the best advice to give someone in the realm of a spiritual goal is be on a relentless pursuit for truth. Be on a relentless pursuit for truth. And if we don't agree eye to eye on what our religion is, or what my philosophy is to your philosophy, if you really try seeking truth and start following the breadcrumbs and make it a part of your day to try to figure out the 4 essential questions to life, origin, meaning, morality, destiny. Those are the things that I think will help you align with the spiritual flavor that will make sense. Origin, where did I come from? Meaning, what's the point of being here? Morality, what is the difference between right and wrong? Destiny, what happens to me when I die? Those are 4 very essential questions to any leader, any influencer, any person that wants to really be somebody, go out there and make an impact and do something. You got to understand those 4 things. So I would be on the spiritual side, whatever your goal is, make an attempt every single day to relentlessly pursue truth. And I'm sick, and I said this on my last podcast with what was his name? Jarrett Samuels. And I talked to him, and we said there's a difference between truth, the truth, and your truth. There's a difference between the truth and your truth. The truth is one way. Your truth could be whatever you want it to be. I would encourage you to try to find the truth. What is really the answer? And if you want to hide behind what feels good, I think you're going to be disappointed when you find out that there's things that could live beyond that. So on the spiritual side, I would just say encourage you to have a goal where you relentlessly pursue truth and investigate the questions of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. The physical side of this, I think that's pretty straightforward. Most of you people are fit. But if you're not fit and you want to become fit, here's what you do. SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable. What's T? What is R and T? I don't remember. Okay, I'm going to look this up now because I'm on the air. All these personal trainers that are just like, are you kidding me? You don't know SMART goals? the specific measurables, the ones I always want. All right, the elements of a SMART goal. Marissa hates this because she's just been beaten into her head. Okay, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. So when we look at specific, you're talking about something that is very exact to what you're looking at. So if you want to lose weight, how many pounds and by when, right? Because something like losing weight would be specific. You have a pound, it's measurable. The weight is measurable. It's achievable. If you say you want to lose 20 pounds in a month, depending on what personal trainer you're talking to, and depending on what your body type is like, that might not be it might be a little too aggressive for you if you want to have long-term success. So there's just some different things you can look at. And relevant, obviously, you want to make sure that it's something that makes sense to what you're trying to accomplish. That's pretty straightforward. It should be more like SMART goals, like a Boston person said it. And then time bound. What's the date? What is this going to look like? And for those of you that are trying to do something for a year, like I said, win the day. So every goal you have for the year, break it down into maybe quarters, and then break it down into the day. What is it going to take to win the day today? Maybe just saying no to pizza. Maybe just not drinking for 2 weeks. Maybe not drinking at all. Maybe not drinking this weekend, or maybe not drinking every other weekend. So if it's Friday, just win the day. It's just not to have a drink. And you break it down like that, it becomes very easy, I shouldn't say easy, but it becomes very attainable. It's very possible to do. So something to think about when you're coming up with a physical goal. And I'm sure we could go just all in deep on physical goals, but there's a lot. Reach out to Marissa if you guys got questions and you don't know what's going on with your health. Marissa'sFitBoutique.com. She can answer all sorts of questions on just how you can, she always says every body is a snowflake, right? So everybody's got a little bit different thing going on. I think that most people try to batch you into this diet, or everybody should do this, or everybody should do that. And that's not true. And I think that Marissa's one of the people that she can talk to you about that. So if you're interested in pursuing some kind of physical goal, just talk to her. She'll talk to you for free. And that's not a problem at all. She'll even get you a free fitness assessment if you're in the area. So physical goals, SMART goals, take a look, see what you think. Intellectual goals are also important. And I think this ties into a little bit where I was going with spiritual goals. I think that the reason I put relentlessly pursuing truth in the spiritual goal was because I think eventually when you start seeking truth, you're going to start to find, why we really exist. So that's a little bit with the intellectual side, but I think I would actually have another goal that's somewhere around what's going to make you the subject matter expert in your field. Because that's what's going to change your finances. That's what's going to change your career. That's what's going to change really everything about what you're trying to do, especially you business owners. I think there is value in being a generalist, and I understand that. And especially from a leadership perspective, there's a lot of value in being a generalist. But there's also strengths that you're going to have to play. And what are those strengths going to be? And if those strengths are something that's not a physical strength or a physical property, it's probably going to fall in the realm of intellectual. So what is that intellectual goal? How are you going to master your craft? What does that look like for you? Let's look at your strengths. Let's look at your weaknesses. Because some of your weaknesses, so I always tell you, there's 3 options you got with a weakness. You can improve it. Okay, so you're going to have to do something. If you're soft on algebra, you got to tighten that up. We're going to have to improve that. We're going to have to learn that if it's relevant to you and your industry. But you can improve it. You can delegate it. You can just hire somebody that knows algebra, or you can get rid of it. You can say, I never have to do algebra the rest of my life. And I'll make a great argument for why I think you should know algebra. Especially all you people that are like, I hated math my whole life. I'm like, I think that there's great value in having like a liberal arts kind of education, or even if it's a self-education. It doesn't have to be from a college or university. But knowing a little bit of everything is something that you want to look at. So there's 2 aspects of this intellectual side. There's the generalist aspect, that liberal arts kind of side of it. But there's the mastering of your craft. What's going to specialize? What are you going to specialize in? What's going to make you different? So when you're looking at strengths and weaknesses, the weaknesses is to round you out. You want to improve weaknesses on the intellectual side to round you out. So you can be a good generalist, but then you want to keep pinning down your strengths and being a thought leader or a leader in your space. Most of the time, I think, depending on what your industry or field is, you're probably going to find that on the intellectual side. But, there's a lot of athletes and stuff that you might be able to, qualify that differently. So have a great intellectual goal. If you don't know your strengths, figure them out. Let's go to StrengthsFinder.com or go to, StrengthsFinder. There's DISC assessments. There's Myers-Briggs. Some of those personality flavors don't necessarily give you as much of your strengths, personal strengths, as your StrengthsFinders would. I recommend StrengthsFinder to people because that just helps you kind of like, if I'm a really charismatic person, I shouldn't be living in a dungeon coding XML, right? That's just something that you want to think about. Where can we get this strength out there, and how do we keep using that in your business or career, right? So that's something to think about on the intellectual side. Intellectual goals should be broken into strengths, weaknesses. Weaknesses are to round you out, so you can eliminate it, you can delegate it, or you can improve it. And if you elect to improve, that should be an intellectual goal. I want to know more history this year because it's relevant to my profession, and I keep getting caught with it. And I don't have enough money to delegate it to a historian that works on my staff. Okay, great intellectual goal. The other side you should look at is, what are my strengths? It's like, I am the leading thought leader in arithmetic. So I need to, maybe I should pursue reading 6 books related to this field, whatever. You get the idea. The next side of this is a family goal. So what does your family goal look like? Some of you guys probably hate your family. And some of you guys probably are so overwhelmed by your family, you can't get them out of your life. So it's just, there's some, depending on where you're at, I think that there's some medium between the two. So for me, I've been blessed with having a family that's just really involved in my life because I live near them, and it's just, it's got all the benefits that come with having a strong family, but you got to recognize that there's all the disadvantages that come with having a strong family. They're going to have a strong influence over the direction you want to take your life. They're going to have a strong influence over these different goals that I just announced to you guys. There's going to be a lot of problems there. So you want to make sure that you're setting those boundaries mentally with your family. And then on the flip side, if you hate your family, there might be a good goal to have here with maybe reconciling some differences with maybe your father or your mother or somebody that you cast out of your life a while ago. There could be a great goal there to make sure that you're bridging that communication with them. There might be a goal of starting a family. There might be a goal of spending more time with your family. There might be a goal of spending less time with your nuclear family if you have children, and maybe you spend a lot of time with them, but you've neglected these other wheels because you spend so much time with your family. And like I said, I don't have children. I can't speak to this aspect so much, but I like to think, and that this might be one of those things that changes as I grow up and I decide to have children, but I have noticed there's just a lot of men in particular that decide to retire their goals. They retire their pursuit for truth. They decide to retire their ambition because they have a family. And most people will honor that decision and think that that's an honorable way to end your journey. And it's like, oh, this is just part of life. When you're in your mid-30s and you got 3 kids under the ages of 10, you're just kind of done being you. And that's it. And I just think I just reject that. I'm not going to let myself live that way. I don't think that men should live that way, or women, or anybody else that thinks that. I just happen to run into men that get persuaded that that's okay. I think that it's okay to take your children and your family along for the journey with you, and you can still spend time with them. I don't think it's always exclusive like that. I think that there's still ways you can build your business, go on your journey, bring your children with you, be a family person, and all make that work. So for those of you that think that, I think there's a lot of guys that need to just be shaken, woken up a little bit and say, you're not even spending time with your kids anyway. You're just sitting on the phone in the couch while they're playing on the floor. That's not family time. You could be working on your business during that time. You're not even present with them anyway. I'd rather have you spend, 1.5 hours of full, undivided attention to your family than spend 4 or 5 hours when you're not even really paying attention to them and they're just running around. So think about that as a family person and what you want to look at your goal. If you've got a tight family and you guys are tight, make sure that you understand that there's excess and defect to all this. Too much family can maybe influence your journey. Not enough family, maybe you should start to mend some of those broken relationships, and maybe start to talk about it this year, or even put that plan in place. And the last goal here is social, and that's where I fell short this year. And this one was pretty easy for me because I am naturally a social butterfly, and I really struggled last year with giving up the drinking. Like, I never had a drinking problem. It's hilarious. You always tell people, I'm like, oh no, I'm not drinking this year. And they're like, oh wow, that's good. Be strong. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't have a problem. I'm like, I just decided I didn't want to drink this year to see what happened. And there's lots of benefits to the health side of it, but when you want to just relax and be a person and come back down and be a little bit more grounded, I found that very difficult to do and find a good social setting. So the goal this year is I wanted to have, just a monthly boys night, right? So just monthly boys night, just get the guys together, go out, have a good time. Don't worry about things don't worry about, you always want to be thinking about being the best you and being the best version of yourself, but just being grounded enough to realize that you can be a person today, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean destructing everything you've created. That doesn't mean falling into this life of sin or all this crazy, devastation of deprivation that I see some men do. And I've seen this firsthand. Guys that restrict all this problems and all this stuff, and then they get away for one day, and all of a sudden they just go wild. And it's just like, what are you doing, man? Seen that a couple times this year, in fact, and I've seen it many times in the last 2 years. So I'm not saying that's what that looks like. I'm saying it's a way of being grounded, to recognize that you can come back down to be with the common people. If you're on this high horse, you can get down and hang out with the commoners and just understand what they value and understand what people, and just have good conversation and be grounded. And that's what I wanted to have as my social goal this year, because I didn't get that last year. I felt very pretentious staying away, feeling I was above that. Oh, I didn't drink. I'm one of these people that doesn't drink and go with the common folks to the bar. It's like, I'm not like that. And that just didn't feel right. So those are my goals. I think you guys should think about this wheel of life. I'll repeat it again if you're taking notes. It's career, financial, spiritual, physical, intellectual, family, and social. I think if you guys have at least a plan of action or a goal oriented with one of these things, you're going to find a very, very, very productive year. And if you start thinking about making it less about the goal and more about what you are becoming, how you are changing, you're going to start to see a fantastic 2020 as we approach the roaring 20s of this century. And that's just crazy to think about. We're already in the 20th century, or already in the 20s. This is awesome. But with that said, folks, we got a lot of really big things coming up in just my business this next year. I can't talk about a couple of them because there's some big movers that I can't talk about. Some of it's just proprietary to us, but you guys know we're hosting a retreat. You guys know that we're going on speaking tour. You guys know that we're going to be opening up. I can talk about this one a little bit, but we're going to be opening up another networking community. It's going to be completely free. Anybody can join it. It's going to be more targeted, though, towards this local area. So if you're a listener in northeastern Wisconsin, I encourage you to reach out and try to inquire a little bit more about it. But like I said, none of this is kicked off yet. These are all just in our strategy. And then there's a big, big, big project we're working on. I can't talk about that one. It's going to be probably not as relevant to you podcast listeners. It's not necessarily going to be like an online launch per se, but it's going to be some brick and mortar action that's happening around here. I can say that. And it's going to be really exciting, and it's going to be just really about bringing it local, because I believe that, you could build a good local community around you, a good local following. I think the rest kind of takes it from there. So I think what we really want to do is serve our community, because there's just great advice around blossom where you're planted. And for those of you that might be in the middle of nowhere and thinking you'll never make an impact, or in some country even where you don't think you can make an impact, blossom where you're planted. Serve your local community. Serve the people around you. Serve those that you run into every single day, and watch it come together around your life. Just help who you can, serve who you can, do what you can. Stop thinking about what everyone else is doing and just worry about serving local. And that's really going to be one of the emphasis in our business strategy going forward. We want to figure out how we can continuously serve locally and just blossom where we're planted. So that's the 2019 in review, the 2020 going forward. That's my philosophy for doing goals this year. If you have a different strategy, whatever. I mean, this was mine. Take it for what it's worth. I think it can be very helpful. I take this very seriously. I always stick with my goals. I usually achieve my goals when I stick with them and I can access the habits. And this is how you do it. So I think that if you guys can take this approach, you're going to find a phenomenal 2020 ahead of you. And if you can just wipe away the past and the things that didn't serve you this last year, just remove it, make it a part of you, make it a part of your journey, but it's just been a stepping stone, a building block. That's just a piece of who you are. But going forward, you're going to be so much stronger because you've got calluses, because you've resisted. Just like when you train a muscle, it becomes bigger and stronger the more you resist and the more you push forward and the more you train. And that's what we're in the business of doing. We're in the business of growing. We are growing ourselves every single day, no matter what you're doing. So wherever you're at, whatever season of life you're in, whatever religion you believe, whatever business you own or are part of, or whatever your career looks like, there's something you can do today that's going to change your tomorrow. And it's only going to happen if you take the action today and you stay consistent with those goals that we talked about. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for listening through to the end. This is Aaron Armstrong speaking, AaronJArmstrong.com. You can go to find out anything more about me or any upcoming events or news or notes. So with that said, folks, thank you so much. Be somebody.
What's up, everybody? This is your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33. That's Aaron Armstrong 33, or you can go to my website, AaronJArmstrong.com. Thanks so much for listening through to the end. I wanted to also introduce you guys to our Facebook community. So you can go to Winners Waltz Worldviews on Facebook, and it's a group where we can offer, different opportunities for you guys to ask questions. If you have a Q&A or something in your business or a challenge in your life that you want to bring up, that's the community to ask it. And then I can also share that with all of our listeners on our social media platforms. The final thing I wanted to share with you guys is something that Marissa and I have been so excited for. It's been really chomping at me to freaking tell you guys. And it's our Personal Growth Ventures Retreat. So our Personal Growth Ventures Retreat is going to be located on the island of St. Lucia. It's going to be a business seminar combined with personal growth and development. And we're also adding in something nobody else has ever done in a seminar that I've heard of. And that's fitness and adventure. So these are the things that are going to help push us to our limits. It's going to help us break through our fears. And these adventures are going to be one of a kind. If you want to find out more about what our adventures entail, what's going to be involved in the education session, and where this is all going to be happening and when, you can go to our website, personalgrowthventures.com. That's personalgrowthventures.com. It's also going to be located in the show notes. So with that said, guys, thanks so much for listening through to the end. Once again, go be somebody.